up. I'm going to walk around with a golf umbrella over her, so I think we're going to be okay. Yeah.
Is it raining, Adam?
It's nasty. It is a nasty day here.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
But us dads do what we got to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're on the Pirate Broadcast today on Halloween, and we have Adam in the room.
What's up, everybody?
Welcome. So
thank you.
I want to talk a little bit about a few things. There's some diversity in your background. You got a lot of experience in marketing, and then you ended up in recruiting. And I have to ask the question: how did you get started in recruiting, and how did you find your niche in that area?
How did I find my niche? Well, long story long, as I like to say, Russ, I spent 15 years working in advertising and marketing.
Yeah.
And my last stop before my life career epiphany, I was at VaynerMedia working for the great Gary Vaynerchuk. And as I told you before, I lost my job. I did not bring my A game. I had a lot of crazy stuff going on in my life, and I lost my job. And I think so many people could relate out there, where you land this amazing job, you think it's awesome, you think it's going to be great, and things didn't go my way. And I lost my job. So long story short, that day that I got let go, I'm sitting in front of Gary, somebody I have a very good relationship with, and he said to me the most important words of advice for us. He said, stop focusing on the things that you suck at and double down on your strengths. And that's exactly what I did. I thought long and hard about what I'm good at. I'm good at this. I know marketing, I know advertising, and I am ultimately a connector. And that led me into the world of recruiting. I did my due diligence. I met every recruiter that I've ever met. I had tons of conversations, and then I dove in deep and I said, I'm going to focus on recruiting jobs that I know that I sat in. I'm recruiting for marketing and advertising jobs that I once had.
Because you were there, you knew what talent was and what was necessary to fill that slot.
But I also knew what didn't work. Right. I also understood some of those red flags that I had, right? Some of those questions that I was asked during interviews, and some of those questions that I was never asked, that might have put me in a better position to be successful at all those jobs in my career.
Well, okay. So let's break it down, because, I think there's a lot of misconception, especially in the LinkedIn world, because you see a lot of recruiters, and I've heard it on your podcast a couple of times. It's like, okay, well, I get hit up for a job in Oklahoma for a position that I had no connection with whatsoever. So I think you nailed it on the head, is the relationship and understanding what is necessary. And also, very important, knowing what not to ask for, right?
Yeah, it comes down to relevance.
It does come out to relevance. And so, with a marketing background, do you feel that gives you an advantage in the recruiting space?
I think 1,000,000%. And I think, there's a lot of recruiters out there. And I think having my marketing background enables me to create my brand, to build and develop a company, because I've learned how to do that. In the last 17 years, I've had some amazing mentors in my life to see the right way to build a brand, how to design it from a graphic perspective, how to understand what my purpose is, what my mission is, and put it all together. And it took me a long time. I think this did not happen overnight. It took a lot of hard work, a lot of trial, a lot of error, a lot of success, a lot of failures, and ultimately a lot of optimization, Russ.
Well, and I think, so walk us through the process, because for me, HR and, it feels like sometimes that it's a shotgun approach, and recruiting seems to be like a sniper, approach. And one of the things that it's almost, to me, it feels almost like the same skill set as lead generation.
It's a funnel. It's a pipeline, and it's a funnel. So that's a very good analogy, because it really is lead gen. So I consistently have my candidate funnel open, and I do that by building relationships on LinkedIn. I'm consistently making connections. I'm reaching out for people that are in my world. So when the time comes for either they are on the market or I am looking for a specific skill set, they are connected. So let's take LinkedIn, for example, and I'm recruiting for a very niche digital marketing job. Say it's director of paid social. Okay. When I post that job or I start talking about it on LinkedIn, two things are going to happen. It's going to show up in those people's feed because we're connected, or B, pulling back the wizard curtain a little bit too. When I get into actually using LinkedIn Recruiter and I'm searching for those people, they're going to be a first connection. There's going to be name recognition. There's going to be brand recognition, and that's going to help drive that recruiting relationship.
Yeah. So I'm on the other side of the coin, right? So I could also assist you if say, for instance, I help companies or I know companies that have large bodies of individuals in a talent pool that you need. It would be very advantageous for, and this is what I love about LinkedIn is I think it would be advantageous to work and co-op some other industry people to be able to say, okay, I'm going to expand my network and I'm going to connect with individuals that have broad networks that I can connect with, right? And that's the other part of the relationship business that I think is really key to a quality, search for recruiters.
Yeah, and
Would-
it's
would-
it, it's
Is that a safe assumption?
yeah, it is a safe assumption. I mean, it ultimately is a relationship game, right? On all sides of the equation, it's about, referrals. I mean, my business thrives on referrals. And there's two different types of referrals. There's genuine karma for the good of the world referrals, which I absolutely love. And then there's pre-negotiated business referrals where people come to me and they have networks and there's certain relationships worked out. Listen, this is
Sure.
business, man, right? There's business.
Yeah.
And there's certain sides of the recruiting equation. Like if I'm working in-house at a client who's paying me on a contract or retainer basis, that's one thing where you may not be able to get financial referrals. On the other side of it, if we're talking old school contingency recruiting, then there's different conversations to be had there where everyone wants their piece of the pie. I mean, let's cut to it, man. We're all here to make some money and help
Sure.
people get great jobs.
Well, and I've been in this. I've been a contractor, and I've contracted individuals. I've been on both sides of the street, so
Yeah.
I understand the mechanics of it. However, I've never. I don't know. I like lead generation. I like finding and building relationships. I just love it.
Love it.
However, I've never utilized it for recruiting in that respect. I guess I have because I've found a friend of mine, a lot of technical people. I've introduced him to a number of technical people that have just, and that's the karma thing for me. It's like,
Yeah.
hey, I know Bob over here, and you know, and actually, over the years, I've worked with different people because of introductions I've
And
taken
I can
place.
tell you something. In my years of recruiting, I think I've only paid out one or two kind of these like introductory referrals
Mhm.
because and it was very transactional. But that's
That's
I
rare.
really feel that most people genuinely want to help other people for the good, right? Like that's what we do it for. It comes back to you tenfold, a hundredfold when you make those introductions. I mean, if I could help two people connect
Uh-huh.
just for the good of it, I know it's going to come back to me a million times over.
Well, it's funny because um, I'm working with I'm a mentor for the group Vet Speaks. I think that's right. Are you familiar with it?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so every year about 250,000 military personnel go back into civilian life. And the transitional part of the equation is very thin. There's not a lot of transitional material that or time that goes into transitioning back. In the naming conventions, the way that they use the tasks and names of their jobs are not the same as in commercial space.
Yeah.
So we go through this process of helping these vets, take their skills, develop transferable skills that look like something very important or are very valuable in the corporate world, and then connect the dots to help them get positioned and placed in civilian life. And I think it's an awesome opportunity for a recruiter if you could get involved in some of these other organizations, a large organization that so you could see, because I mean, computer science, logistics,
I
all
mean,
of these things
the skill
happen
sets are there, right? It's
yeah, the
about how do you
skill sets are
translate
there.
them to corporate America? How do you help the vets with the resumes? And there's a lot of work. Are you connected with Rich Cardona? Rich's work. He does a lot of work with vets transitioning. I'll connect you offline with him.
Oh yeah, connect us. I'll connect you with David, and in fact, Ariel, I had on the show earlier. We'll connect you and get you involved in that area
Always happy to help out.
because I think it would be valuable for recruiters to understand that there is a pool of resources there that is underutilized, and I think that
Absolutely.
the underutilization takes place in two places. It's understanding what the corporate language is versus the military language, and how we can actually transition these two and bring them together. Because I think it's a short walk.
I couldn't agree more, and it really also relates to outsourcing too. There's so many amazing people in this country who need jobs, who are qualified, especially vets. Coming back to civilian life, and they need that help. And this is an incredible pool of extremely talented, sharp people that have worked under insane pressure. I mean, take
Yeah.
that soft skill for a minute. So how well do you handle pressure? I mean, look at these folks, the stuff that
Yeah.
the conditions that they've had to be in. Absolutely, Russ.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I just want to give a shout out to Celeste, Junaid, Sherry, Randall. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. We got some people in the room and we're talking about recruiting and recruiting military personnel and technical people, all kinds of individuals. Adam is, with the history in marketing, he's going after these relationships and building it out. So let's talk about LinkedIn. How has LinkedIn evolved your recruiting business, and what solutions can you bring to the table that might help somebody in our community today?
Absolutely. I mean, I feel like I'm just repeating what everyone's saying. I mean, the amount of organic growth and engagement opportunities on LinkedIn is incredible. It really is. You could reach so many people versus every other platform. And for me, it's been a canvas for two things. One, to share my voice, right? To share my point of views on recruiting and to engage with candidates. And number two, it's a platform for me to showcase my network. My network is my net worth, and my canvas is my podcast. And my podcast is really bringing leaders in business, marketing, recruiting, talent acquisition, or people with amazing human stories to the forefront to really talk about how they all harness their tenacity. Because ultimately, if you're in the job search, what you need more, the one skill you need is tenacity.
Yeah.
And then patience and perseverance. It's a process.
Well, I wrote the other day and I tagged somebody as like, life is an instrument you have to practice to get good at, right?
You got to tune it too. Yeah.
You got to tune it. And those adjustments come along, even though it was unfortunate that you lost your position at Vayner. I've been launched out of a corporate ladder, the ivory tower on more than one occasion. And if you look at it from a lessons perspective and say, okay, what have I learned from this? What's my takeaway, and how can I be responsible for my own future, and take it to the next level and say, okay, I've learned this much. I've got to X. What's it going to take to get to Y? And I think so many people, they're concerned about they're like, okay, what happened to me? Poor me. Instead of taking an ownership and just owning that and moving forward with it.
That's a tremendous point. And one of my big themes, and I'll share the link with your audience later, is to own your losses, right? And I stole that from Gary, because Gary really showcased that, and that's what he kind of beat into me. I own my loss at Vayner. I would say 85% of that is my fault, my doing, my control, right? I could have fixed it. When things weren't going well, I had an opportunity to fix it, but I didn't, right? And at the moment when I lost my job, I had no one to blame but myself, right? I could have said, well, it was me. They set me up for failure. They didn't help me. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. But ultimately, Russ, I had to take a step back, and it was that moment of introspective self-awareness where I had to say, you know what? Here's what I'm not good at. Here's what I didn't do right. And now is my moment at age 35 to course correct.
Yeah.
And I did.
So when you really look back and you investigate what it was about, it wasn't really bringing you joy. I have to imagine that it wasn't really fulfilling your life. It wasn't, and that inherently, but you're thinking, hey, I got, it's paying the bills. It's doing, it's
a job.
It's a job. And so many people go for the job instead of the joy. And I just think that, that's something you need to consider in life, is go for the joy and enjoy the moment. We can't change the past. However, we can change the way we're feeling about right now and going forward. So I think that's really important in everybody's arena. So
yeah, it's hard. It's hard too, because listen, based on everyone's individual socioeconomic status, like, you can't always have a job that you're going to love and like, I love doing this, but find those opportunities within that job to find those moments that you truly love. There's an aspect about it, right? Like any job that you have, there's parts of it that you really do enjoy. And listen, I can't even think of anybody who could say 100% of their job they love. There's always something about, like, some aspect about your job that you're not going to love, right? But you have to find those moments.
Yeah.
And going back a little bit, it's a hard thing just to kind of hit the rewind button. Dwelling in the past. I did that a lot in life. And it was a real true moment when I flipped the switch and I said, I am done looking backwards. I'm going to look backwards to see where I was, but I'm
Yeah.
not going to let that define my future. And I think that people really have to start doing that.
Yeah. It's really hard to, it's really difficult to move forward when you're hanging on to the past. So lesson for today on Halloween, don't look backwards, find the joy in the moment, enjoy what you're doing as much as possible. There's always going to be things that you don't enjoy 100%. You know, it's like, okay, paying bills or, you know, invoicing clients or stuff like that. You know,
Yeah.
I delegate as much as I can. So it's like,
Accounts receivable, chasing down the clients who aren't paying the bills. Remember, don't look backwards. It's going to hurt your neck. It's going to
yeah,
hurt.
it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. So let's jump into something else. So the process that you use to make connections online, you know, first level connections, because you're going after a specific audience. And this is a selfish ask because I have a project that I'm going on. I'm looking for independent insurance agents. So, you know, I'm thinking, okay, you could do some searches, and I got, you know, I got paid version of LinkedIn, and
There you go.
I'm pretty good at, you know, finding a few people. And it's just a matter of building relationships, making a soft connection, not selling them anything. Because
Right.
I heard on one of your podcasts, I think it was with Mike.
Mike Winnett.
Yeah.
Oh, he's the entrepreneur. I love that
The
episode.
entrepreneur.
Yes.
Yeah. Go check out his YouTube channel too. So
Yeah, he exposes the BS.
yeah. And the reality is though, is just like in real life, you know, if you're not authentic in real life, you're not going to be authentic online. You know, and people say crush it and everything like goes along with it. And I love what I do, and I'm online a lot, and I utilize the space, and it's difficult at times to manage the things. And really the most difficult thing about LinkedIn is the opportunity to actually know who you're connected with and following up and organizing that in a way that makes sense. How do you manage your connections like that to
Yeah, I mean,
follow up with people?
it's an ongoing process. I mean, I use a lot of the tools within the LinkedIn platform itself. I mean, I have the LinkedIn Recruiter, which is the professional recruiting version of it.
Yeah.
So there's some tools within that
Okay.
for follow up. But it really is. It goes back to kind of a mantra that I repeat daily, which is plan your work and work your plan. Right. I know when I wake up in the morning and I start my recruiting engine, kids are off to school. My 1-year-old's with the nanny. Everything's good. Life is good. Now it's time to turn on the recruiting machine. I have my mission for the day. I know the roles that I'm working on,
Mhm.
and I'm able to go into my network on LinkedIn. And like
Uh-huh.
you do, I'm sourcing by job set, by companies that I know have these type of people, and I'm going back to those relationships. I'm pinging them.
Yeah.
Hey, Sue. Hey, Mary. Hey, John. Like, how's it going over at XYZ company? Things are good. Just a quick heads up. If you're in the market, I got this going on. If you're not, I'd appreciate any referrals. Right?
Yeah.
It's repetition, it's muscle memory, it's going back to the well. And I think that's really where people recognize you. Oh, I see Adam's podcast up there. I'm building credibility. He's somebody that I should talk to. So it all works together, all these pieces. It's not just a
Yeah.
one-off strategy, a one-off tactic. They all work in unison.
Are you telling me that in order to get the work done, you have to do the work?
Sadly, you got to do the work.
Damn
There's no excuse for that. There's
you
no excuse. People think there's shortcuts and people think there's overnight successes. No, it's not going to happen. It's not. You
yeah.
got to put in the
Yeah.
work, right?
However, I have to tell you, there is, you know, anytime you build systems. Now we had a little bit of a bump this morning because I had sent you out an invitation because we were looking for space and everything else, and you know, making some adjustments there. And my typical system is pretty streamlined. You book your time, you book your day. Well, the time's the same every day, but you book your time, and then it sends you the notification, and then I send you a link to the show to get in the green room. Well, I had sent you a personal because we moved the day, and I had sent you a personal one, so it had Hangouts in there automatically with Google. It's like I don't like that, but
I know you got to exit out. It
you got to
defaults
exit
out
out,
of
and I didn't do it. So
no.
apologize for that.
It's all
And
good.
building systems is important. So
Yeah.
you probably have systems in place that, you know, make
Yes.
sure. And
The
it's so
system.
important.
You have to have system. I mean, as a recruiter, as anybody who's handling a large volume of information, you need to figure out a process that works for you. I use a ton of Google Docs. I have my databases and I have my Google Docs. And my Google Docs, I have my candidates separated into skill sets and categories based on where if I've submitted them before, if I've had conversations with them, I'm able to track when and where that conversation was. So when I go back and re-engage with them, I'm like, hey, Russ, I know we talked last June. How's it going?
Yeah.
Make it personal. Make it relevant.
Make it relevant. And the big lesson here for myself, Adam, everyone is make it authentic.
Yeah, I'm gonna put my recruiter hat back on. Here's my
recruiter back.
There's my recruiter hat back on.
Get your branding going. So the reality is at the end of the day, and I've been in this for a long time. I've been doing this a long time at different capacities, and the reality is it's still coming back to build a relationship. I have friends that I did business with 20 years ago. I'm still connected with.
And that's a true testament to who you are too, right? And that's your character. And something that I talk about, the long game is the only game in town. All of my relationships and my success are predicated on not burning bridges and fostering and growing relationships. When people play that short game, listen, when people send me a connection request on LinkedIn, I am so scared to hit that button, Russ. I am so scared because I know the second that I hit that button, I'm going to get that long sales pitch. And I'm like, hey, you know what? This guy looks good. His picture looks somewhat okay. And the second I hit that button, the sales pitch comes, I immediately hit ignore. And it hurts me because I want to give people the benefit of the doubt. So what I've been doing lately is when I see someone send a connection in and I kind of have that feeling it's going to be a sales pitch, and let me take a step back. It's okay to sell. Just figure out the right way to do it. This is we're all selling something here, but do it the right way. So what I've been doing a lot of, instead of before I hit connect, I hit reply to that invite and I find out a little bit more. Hey, why are you reaching out to me? Or in the body of that message where they're sending me the connection request, if they're off a little bit, if they didn't customize it, if it seems like a template and they didn't recognize me, I'm going to call them out on it and say, hey, why do you really want to connect with me?
Yeah. What's your goal here? Because
my goal in life?
Yeah, what's my big goal in life?
I'll tell you what my goal in life is. My goal in life is to make enough money where my wife doesn't have to work. That's my near-term goal because she works her ass off. She's a corporate attorney, and I want her to spend more time with the kids, and I want to enable that for her. That's my ultimate goal. But my goal here on LinkedIn is to. It sounds so cliche and everything, but my goal is to add value. It really is. Yeah. Whether I'm giving people one golden nugget to help them in their job search, if I'm connecting somebody, or if I'm entertaining you in my podcast, like folks like Mike Winnett, just putting a smile on your face, making you laugh.
Because that's one of the ways that I think you're adding a lot of value, and this happens so much because I've been in the radio business, I've been in podcasting for a while, I've taught at Podcast Movement, and I've been involved in the industry for a while, and it's so. I think I have two things to say about it. Thank you for putting the podcast out because I think it adds a lot of value.
Thank you.
And everybody has a gift and a message that they can share. And right now we're living in the most incredible time of history where you can actually pick up a phone and start a podcast and have a conversation and bring value to the world.
You could do a podcast from your phone.
I know.
Anywhere in the world.
I know. But my point is you've done your podcast. I've heard your podcast. It's great work, and thank you for sharing that value. So, what prompted you to start a podcast? I mean, you're like 40 episodes into it?
Yeah, 30. I'm dropping 35 tomorrow. I'm almost recorded up to 50. Little preview for your audience here. I am recording episode 50, my first ever live. It's not gonna be live, but I'm recording it video in person. In the VaynerMedia offices with Claude Silver on Monday. So it's going to be a very special episode. We're going to pull back the curtain on what happens when someone's not doing well at their job. We're going to have a very real conversation that so many people could relate to. But my impetus for the podcast was really to showcase my network, right? Yeah. It was, I have all these amazing people that I built relationships with, and I'm so happy to share. There's like this podcast circuit where I see a lot of similar people on everybody's show. Sure, and there's some people that are awesome. They kill it and everything. Yeah. But what I would really like to do is bring people to the forefront that may not have been showcased or not, I want to give those people an opportunity to share their stories. Because for me, the nugget is in the human story, right? It's showcased. It's not about me. I mean, I can talk all day about myself, but I want to use the podcast to showcase other people.
Well, that's why you're on the pirate broadcast, because it's like, okay, you don't need to talk about you on the podcast. You need to talk about on the pirate broadcast.
I know, it's crazy. I do like talking about myself. I like my story. I like me right now.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with me.
Oh.
I've been me since I was born.
I mean, let's don't get me wrong. There was times when I didn't like me. I mean, I don't want to. This isn't the psychologist couch here right now. Like, I'm not lying down and telling you but like, I'm happy. Like, I like what I'm doing. I genuinely enjoy it. Like, I'm able to have this life that I want, where, you know, I'm gonna leave here. I'm gonna go to my kid's Halloween parade and get back to work a couple hours later. You know, I mean, I could shift my schedule. I could do things like this. I'm going to be on the phone with a candidate right afterwards.
Well, this goes back to our conversation right when we started.
Yep.
It's like, design the life you want to have. And not everybody understands what that looks like until they've had enough experience to understand what they don't like, right?
That is such a critical point there. And I just want to harp on that for a second there. So I was talking to somebody the other day about the value of internships, and I'm kind of throwing a curveball here. But I just want to urge everybody, the most important thing you get out of an internship or an early job is finding out what you don't like.
Yeah.
Finding out those things that you don't like. So when you're going for those job interviews, so when you're going into the job market, I don't like doing Excel spreadsheets. I don't like changing fixtures on a plumbing thing. I don't like traveling all the time. Whatever it is, have that intel.
Yeah. Have that understanding and insight on life. So how do people find you? Where is your podcast living? It's on Simplecast, right?
Yes, it's on Simplecast. I made the transition to Simplecast, which I'm enjoying. So I'm on Simplecast. I'm on every major platform. I actually spent about an hour yesterday putting my podcast on all these obscure platforms to get it out there. But ultimately, you could visit me on LinkedIn, Adam J. Posner. I love to connect. I love to chat with everybody. I really do try to make the time to really get to know people, even if it's, you know, on Messenger, or find out more about
we
you.
went back and forth and, you know, booked a call, and I appreciate the opportunity to have this connection. And
15 minutes.
You know, and I'm happy to contribute to the network and anything you have. So, you know, maintain this relationship here, Adam. You know,
it's not like a one-off. It's not
a one and done here.
No.
So we're gonna keep going. We're gonna bust it out and help people out on LinkedIn. We're gonna help people out in their job and their workplace. I'll introduce you to David and the team over at SpeakFit. And there's just so many things. There's so many opportunities out there that we can just develop, you know.
And I want to give a shout out to you too. I love your process here, and the video introductions that you send once we started engaging. You have the flow going, and it keeps it smooth. And I apologize about this morning. Somehow we just, well, on the final piece of connecting and going live, we messed that one up. But you know, the branding, your approach, I love what you're doing, Russ. Keep doing it, man.
I truly appreciate that, and I'm blessed to be in a position where I can do that. You know, it's always a pleasure to connect with people online like yourself, Adam, and I look forward to doing more. And if you know, give me a shout out if you need a guest on your podcast, and we can jump in and talk about life in a different.
Yeah, I want to make that happen, man. I'll shoot you a note on some dates. We'll put it together.
Fantastic. Well, happy Halloween. Stay dry on the day. I know it's raining where you are, and
nasty New York Halloween.
It's what we do, but you know, kindness is cool.
Yes.
Smiles are free.
Yep.
And you enjoy the day.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.